Great to be with you today. Lots of football talk today. Lots of Lions talk. Going to get you some updates from Dan Campbell today. But before we look at today, I'd like to look back, if we could, Bray, at the preseason game on Saturday, where you had the Lions beating the Kansas City Chiefs 24-23. I said yesterday that I thought there were two big keys that came from this game. One, you have a backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. That battle has been won. And two, and perhaps even the biggest part about this, is you have a field goal kicker in Jake Bates. And I thought that 43-yard game winner was as important a kick as you could possibly make in the preseason, in the exhibition season, because let's face it, down by 2 points, a 43-yard field goal, and I know he missed the extra point, whatever. People are going to miss extra points throughout the year. But a 43-yard field goal in the NFL is a kick that you must make 100 times out of 100. You absolutely have to make that kick. If it gets blocked or something like that, bad snap, fine. But as far as the actual kicker goes, if the snap is good, the hold is good, you must make that kick 100 times out of 100. Mm-hmm. Here's Jake Bates, already with a missed extra point on his foot. Comes up here. He could be, and again, if you say the win doesn't matter, that's fine, okay? I'll give you that. But to him, he could be in an even bigger spot because he could be kicking for his career. That kick could have meant the difference between a career in the NFL and fighting and clawing to try to get back to the NFL at some point. If you have a missed extra point and a missed 43-yard field goal,
yeah, that's tough. Yeah,
that's a tough way to make the game. Here's Jake Bates afterwards talking about his confidence. I want to see what you think about that.
Putting a lot of work in, and so that's where that confidence comes from. Someone told me, one of my friends told me, confidence comes from preparation, and I think we've prepared a lot. Us three or four, because we have two snappers. You know, we put in a lot of work. They work with me all the time, anytime I need to. So it's a big testament to them and what they've done to help bring me along.
Full faith in this man. Full faith in this man. That man go crazy.
Full faith is real, and that's an honest statement. You know, when you see a guy go through that, those kickers, they only get called not that many times a game. So when you miss one, it's already on your mind. Dang, I missed that one, whether it's an extra point. Also, let's not forget he made the 55-yarder. He did have that one as well. You start to potentially get in a situation where you're in your head, and you added a nice caveat to that. He's kicking for his life. He misses his kick. He's not kicking for the Detroit Lions this year. Now they got to bring in another kicker. Now he may not have another opportunity to play in the NFL, but he hunkers down. He zones in on the road. He nails the kick. This is what you want to see in guys. Look, it's not perfect. Kickers aren't perfect. Receivers aren't perfect. Quarterbacks aren't perfect. But you want to see how guys arise when they're knocked down, when the adversity is on the line. How does a guy perform? And a guy like Jake Bates making that kick says a lot about who he wants to be. And Dan Campbell, you heard what he said about him. This is the guy they have chosen. They're going to ride him, give him every opportunity to pause, and so he can show that he is the kicker. And so far, it's going well for him.
One of the best kickers in the game resides in Arlington with the Dallas Cowboys. Also, out of the USFL, which is now the UFL, Brandon Aubrey. He hit a 66-yard field goal on Saturday. The guy doesn't miss. The guy is money. And here's Jake Bates following in his footsteps to go to the Detroit Lions. I couldn't think of a better thing. So it just shows you the other league, it does work. And it is almost a farm league for the NFL. It's becoming that.
And I think that's the dream of the USFL, if it could be that. And maybe you could have some affiliation, especially with quarterback play. And that's a whole other topic we can get in. But if you can get a quarterback affiliated with these different teams and get them some reps, I think that would be a good thing. But for Bates, too, man, if you have a field goal kicker, let me put it like this. If you have confidence in your field goal kicker, it just changes the way you play the game. It changes everything about how you coach the game. And if the Lions had confidence, if Dan Campbell had confidence in his field goal kicker, they very well have been the defending NFC champions coming into this year.
Sir.
They would have made it to the Super Bowl last year if Dan Campbell had full faith, like the player said in that graphic, in the field goal kicker. And I think that is one of the biggest things that come out of this preseason. If you're looking at tangible takeaways from in between the lines, thank you, KG, is that this team has found a field goal kicker.
They found a field goal kicker in 43 yards, Ryan. You hit the nail on the head in terms of that spot. 43, you got to make that for the money, because a lot of opportunities, a lot of times, you'll get a Dan Campbell, you'll get an aggressive coach that'll go for it more times than not because he's not necessarily sure. And also, if you miss that kick, now look at the field goal position. The field position. You're already putting the opposition in a chance to score an electric. So, having that guy that can hit 43, having that guy that also has the big leg. Let's not sleep on the big leg as well. I remember playing with the Jets, and we had Nick Folk. Nick Folk is a guy, he can make the short kicks, he can make the big kicks. When you're in those moments, we knew we had a guy that could make that kick, so we never really fretted, we never really feared. We knew Nick would come through, and he made a bunch of big kicks in 2009 and 10 for us. So having a guy that can hit those mid-range and deep kicks, KG, it helped your squad.
And it wasn't just about the 55 or even the 43 for the game. A lot of the criticism about him was, can he make the shorter one?
That's it.
And
right
he
there.
gave you a 23-yarder. He gave you a 36-yarder. Yeah. He had a full range of kicks outdoors with the fans. You know, a lot of people was like, can he handle the pressure of the fans? I know it was a preseason game, but you're kicking the Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So, and those fans were loud, man. That's a lot of pressure.
Game there. It's loud.
Absolutely.
That's my point, too, is I mean, the big leg is great, and you love the big leg, and you've got to have a big leg. You've got to be able to kick a 50-yard field goal consistently in this league. Mm-hmm. But what you also have to do is be able to hit a 23-yarder, a 32-yarder, and a 43-yarder.
4 field goal a day for him.
Yep.
Those absolutely have to be hit. No exceptions.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously something good that's come out of the preseason. Go ahead. I was going to change it up.
I was going to say there was someone else they found in that game as well.
Hendon Hooker.
Sione Vaki.
Yes, sir.
Sione Vaki.
You've got yourself a steal in the 4th round, an absolute steal.
They moved up to get him.
All right? I mean, I am telling you right now, you could rely on this guy. God forbid Jahmyr Gibbs can't play a game, David Montgomery.
And there will be a time where one of these guys, or both of them at some point, can't play a game.
Sione Vaki, fantastic draft pick by Brad Holmes. And by the way, you got Craig Reynolds, and I don't think he's going anywhere. Mm-hmm. I believe you need a Craig Reynolds on your team as well.
I think you have a better odds of keeping those 4 running backs than a 5th receiver.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's where DPJ, I think, is really on the bubble here. Because if you keep 5 receivers, DPJ will make the team. If you don't keep 5 receivers, if you keep 4 receivers, I think he is firmly on the bubble for this team.
They keep 3 tight ends.
And one of the things that Dan Campbell said today, and we'll get to a lot of this stuff, Bray, is that there are 5 or 6 spots still available on this roster, and I think he is fighting for his Detroit Lions career right now, DPJ.
He's definitely fighting for his Detroit Lions career, and the biggest problem with DPJ, outside of punt return, he's not really giving you anything else on the team. He's just giving you a 5th wide receiver time slot or timestamp, if you will. Sione Vaki can play multiple positions. Running back, we saw that. Special teams, we saw that. In the receiving game, now when you don't need a 5th receiver, it's because you have running backs that can catch out of the backfield and that you can use in certain packages. So Sione Vaki, man, this is somebody that a lot of guys have liked. Anson Wells, you got to give him a lot of credit. He has been on it since day one. And Sione Vaki, each week, is showing us more and more and more. He's going to be one of those Baldy breakdown guys. I already can tell you, man, because Baldy's already got 2 breakdowns on Sione Vaki, and it's preseason. So, once again, it looks like Brad Holmes struck gold, and I don't want to undercut what you said, too, or act like I didn't hear it. Hendon Hooker, this is also what you waited for. You needed a backup quarterback. We've been talking about it for years. They got it in Hendon Hooker.
You know, when you look at roster construction, you know, there's so many people that'll look at, you know, DPJ and say, well, you know, he's fighting maybe Isaiah Williams, or he's fighting maybe Caden Davis, or he's fighting with Tom Kennedy, or he's fighting with Maurice Alexander or somebody like that for the 5th receiver spot. No.
Fountain. Don't forget Fountain.
Don't forget, Fountain. That's right. Darius Fountain.
Yep.
he's probably not fighting with any of those players. Well, I don't want to say any of those players. He's probably fighting with a guy like Craig Reynolds.
Yeah.
Because
I want Craig on my team.
I understand, but when you build this team, that's really what you're doing.
Yeah.
Am I keeping 11 defensive linemen?
Yeah.
Am I keeping 10?
Right.
Am I keeping 4 running backs? Am I keeping 3? Am I keeping 5 wide receivers? Am I keeping 4? And based on if wide receiver 5 is better than running back 4, that's really what how you're building this roster. So he might not be fighting with any of these wide receivers. He might be fighting with Craig Reynolds.
Remember what we said. There's going to be a lot of excellent football players that are being released from this Lions franchise. It ain't the old Lions. Guys that they released, no one would even give them a cup of coffee. These guys are going to be scooped up. Remember the practice squad. It's bigger than it used to be. That's teams are going to be salivating when the Lions drop some players. I'm going to say that right now.
Not to be cliche and old school, he's fighting with himself. That's the person who he's fighting with, because Craig Reynolds does and what those other guys do, none of that has bearing on what DPJ does. When DPJ gets opportunities, because let's face it, there aren't a ton of reps to go around right now. But when he's out there, how does he look? What is he doing? How is he making Dan Campbell? How is he making Antoine Randall, Ben Johnson say, "No, we need this guy"? You see the play he made today in practice? You see that play he made in the game? You can't drop the ball and expect. This is the same reason why they got rid of Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds, excuse me. Josh couldn't make up the big plays. He had 2 big drops. This is already what they said, no, we don't need any more of that. When you get your opportunity, what are you doing with it, and how are guys talking about you? That's how you make a team.
You know, Isaiah Williams, 10 catches, 12 targets. DPJ, 2 catches, 6 targets.
Yeah.
That's how you make.
He's on the ropes, man. He's on the ropes.
You know,
It's a shame.
Yeah.
They gave him every opportunity to win that job. I feel like they did not re-sign Josh Reynolds because they thought DPJ would be the guy to come in and fill that number 3, maybe number 4 role. But if you're getting beat out by practice squad guys or undrafted free agents, and it's not from a lack of his, not trying, he's being outplayed.
One of the biggest things, not to cut you off, man, I just had
No, you're good.
One of the biggest things about DPJ, and I love him to death. I told you, our parents went to the same church, Empowerment.
I love DPJ
great kid.
and his
he is
parents.
A great,
I love
great
him,
kid.
yes.
One of the biggest things on him has been the heart. Like, what's his heart look like? What is it like? How big is his heart? How much does he have that it in him? Go get him. Be a dog. Be the right moment. Be the player, whatever type of move you need at the time. A lot of question marks have been on that. And here we are. Biggest moment. You're in Detroit. You're back at the crib. Ford Field is walking distance from where he went to high school. 45 minutes from where he went to college. This is your last chance maybe to be a 4 wide receiver in the league. Maybe even to bump to a 3.
Yeah.
6 opportunities, 2 catches. Versus another guy who doesn't have your stature, doesn't come from where you come from. 12 opportunities, 10 catches. That was one of the biggest things on DPJ is how much dog is in there.
Well, it's like Rocky 3, right? I mean, Clubber Lang is training one way, and Rocky's training the other.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how much dog is in you? And, I mean, I love DPJ. I hope he makes a team, but if my eyes are telling me, if my eyes tell me, I would tell you that he hasn't earned the right. He hasn't earned one of the 53 spots.
Remember after the Giant game, he had a terrible game with the Giants.
Yeah.
That Monday after it, remember Dan Campbell on the podium. Well, DPJ has had an excellent few days after the game. Remember he said that?
Yeah.
Well, after the game, I see something in DPJ that I wanted to see. And then he has another bad game last Saturday. He's running out of Saturdays.
And today, Dan Campbell said without hesitation, Khalif Raymond is the number 3 wide receiver on this team. It's not even a close. It's not even a close battle. Him and anybody else.
That wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, not a surprise at all. And he just does so many things for everybody. But I want to get to Hendon Hooker too. And I know what Dan Campbell said today about Hendon Hooker and the number 2 quarterback. Well, first of all, here's what Dan Campbell said about Hendon Hooker and the reps.
Some real good things in that game, and there were some real bad things, which doesn't surprise me with where he's at. So, certainly we want to get him a real good look. We'd love to give him a lot of reps this week. I think the idea would be, you'd love to start him this week. I'd like to start him, and then it's just a matter of how much does he play. Is it a couple of series and Nate goes in and then he's back, or is it a quarter, or is it a half, but he's going to get a really good look. He's going to get a lot of reps this week because he needs them.
This is what I love about Dan Campbell. He's very honest at the podium. I say this all the time, and I will keep reiterating. The man is honest at the podium. A lot of people, we saw a touchdown. We saw him truck somebody the game before that. You look at the stats, you see 12 of 15, 150 yards. You've been dying and desperate for a backup quarterback. You're like, this guy's the greatest thing ever. Dan says, look, he's got a lot of good things in there. There's a lot of bad things as well. We'll clean some of those things up, get him in there and see what he can do. Dan Campbell and this staff, they believe in their guys. When they believe in you, they'll give you the opportunities and they'll give you the backing and things to be successful. Looks like we got a guy in Hendon Hooker like that a lot.
Can't fumble at the goal line.
Can't fumble at the goal line. Can't fumble at the goal line.
You cannot do that.
Actually, one of the things about that game, and I'll get to the good, that was horrible. You cannot do that. And for all the, maybe you can, because in my own mind, I'm like, you got to utilize Hendon Hooker at the goal line. Maybe you can make a package for him to be at the goal line in that read option. That can't happen. Nearly cost the team the game by having a fumbled snap or a fumbled handoff, or however you want to characterize it. However you want to characterize it, you can't put the football on the carpet in that situation with the go-ahead, with the game on the line.
It was similar to the Goff bad handoff with Jahmyr Gibbs
That's what I was about
in
to say.
San Francisco.
Very,
very same thing.
I think you guys got PTSD because the way you guys approach the anger for that, I'm like, they're thinking about that MC. Well, in a good way, though.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
It cost us the Super Bowl.
Because you are looking for anything that can give you belief or hope. And this guy, if you just look at the numbers, okay? If you just look at the numbers, you say he had a great game. You don't see the fumble, and you don't see maybe a little bit too quick on pulling that ball down and running with it, in my opinion. But then again, you are playing with backups. You know what I mean? I keep that in mind. You're not playing with the starting offensive line. You're not playing with Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams. So you try to balance what you're seeing. Is Amon-Ra or J-Mo getting open a little bit quicker? Is the offensive line giving him that half a second more to go through his progressions so he can sit in the pocket without pulling it down? But I do believe, and I know Dan Campbell said Nate Sudfeld, number 2 quarterback, and he's the backup and all that stuff. Hendon Hooker is the backup quarterback for this football team.
Been saying that all day.
It's not even a question.
Well, let's see Saturday first.
It's not even a question.
No.
Okay, I'll tell you Saturday. Without Saturday's game even being played, Hendon Hooker will outplay Nate Sudfeld.
Are you going, by the way?
No, I'm not going to go. I got a prior commitment.
All right.
You going?
If I use your tickets,
I gave them to my dad.
I'll be damned.
He was trying for a minute. As soon as I was like, I know where this is going.
But I think it's a really big thing for this football team to get a guy like Hooker, in that position and just keep developing. You remember he missed an entire year of football last year. This isn't a kid that comes from college and is having a normal rookie year. He came from college, dealt with recovery from injury, dealt with the first year of the NFL, and now he's playing. So you just got to give him some time to get there, and he's getting there, in my opinion. I love this kid. I love him to death, but you cannot fumble.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're coming out of those spaces, you're overthinking. Because if you think about him, all he's been doing for the last year plus, Ryan and KG, is he's been watching the plays. He's been reading the plays. He's been going over the playbook. He's been with Ben Johnson. He's been with Mark Brunell, my former teammate, just going over mentally the game. What do you see? What is the read? This is the defense. What's the adjustment? So when you finally get out there, you got 2 years worth of knowledge stored up and you're ready to go. Sometimes you overthink it. So I think the more he plays, here's another opportunity. He'll be able to settle down, see himself on film. Now he's able to break himself down on film. He can see where he went wrong. He can see where he missed the read. He can see where he pulled it down a little too early, Ryan, because it's him. Sometimes when you're watching other people up there, like I've been in this space. I tore my ACL toward the end of the year, my rookie year, and I can't go during OTAs and minicamp. I'm not really paying attention to the film because I'm not out there. I'm not watching myself. I'm trying to watch other wide receivers, but figure out what should I do and where they went wrong. When you're watching yourself is when you really dialed in.